Hey guys, Matt here from License to Watch. Sorry to interrupt the show, but I just wanted to say a little bit about our Patreon. That's right, our Patreon. Do you know what that is? If you go to patreon.com/L2W, short for License to Watch, you'll be able to get access to our exclusive content show. On there, we cover bonus movies for fun, and we also just kind of shoot the shit about what is going on in our lives, what we're watching, reading, listening to. You know, contrary to what you hear on the main show, Harris Cullen and I are actually pretty interesting people, or at least we think so. So if you're bored as hell and need more stuff to listen to, please subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com. That's patreon.com/L2W. That's the letter L, the number 2, and the letter W for License to Watch. For just $1 a month, you'll be in the Cool Kids Club. Okay, back to the show. Two years after the release of Mission Impossible 2, David Fincher was hired to direct the third installment of the series. However, citing creative differences, Fincher eventually dropped off of the project. He was quickly replaced by director Joe Carnahan, who went on to develop the film for a further 15 months, until eventually he dropped off the project as well in the summer of 2004. After binge-watching the first 2 seasons of one of ABC's hottest shows, Alias, Tom Cruise knew then who the director of the third Mission Impossible film had to be. Jeffrey Jacob Abrams, known simply as JJ to most, was well known as a scriptwriter and television producer, having created the shows Felicity, Alias, and Lost, which was in the midst of being a pop culture sensation at the time of his hiring. This $150 million budgeted film was to be his feature directing debut. Tom Cruise returns as Ethan Hunt, super spy, along with Ving Rhames as Luther Stickle, the only other familiar face this time around. Joining the franchise for the first time are Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Maggie Q, Billy Crudup, Lawrence Fishburne, Kerry Russell, Simon Pegg, and Philip Seymour Hoffman, hot off of his recent Lead Actor Academy Award win for playing Truman Capote. Here he plays the villainous Owen Davien, a mysterious and dangerous arms dealer. One other addition to the cast was actress Michelle Monaghan, who plays the role of Julia, Ethan's wife. With much of the plot of the film revolving around Hunt's retirement and settling down, the story focuses more on his life when he's not being a spy, making an attempt to have the stakes of the film be more personal to Ethan Hunt than normal. While ultimately not as successful as its predecessor, the film went on to gross over $400 million at the box office and received positive reviews overall, and was much more well received critically than either of the other 2 films in the series. Tom Cruise's career took a blow as he was the focus of several unfortunate tabloid instances that may have been detrimental to this film's ultimate success. From jumping up and down on a couch excitedly on the Oprah Winfrey Show, to a heated interview with TV's Matt Lauer over the merits of the field of psychiatry, Tom Cruise was even roasted as a cartoon in South Park's now infamous Trapped in the Closet episode, with Cruise allegedly threatening Viacom about the episode and refusing to do any promotions for the film if the episode wasn't pulled before it's re-aired. Many people still do not look at Tom Cruise the same way as they did before. In an effort to make people forget about his personal life, Tom Cruise can only do one thing: his job. By reportedly giving 110% to any film that he is a part of, and usually doing most of his own stunts, Cruise's reputation as a daredevil and a workhorse stem largely from his work on this film. This is a show about franchises, movie franchises. We're talking about the third entry in the Mission Impossible series, 2006's Mission Impossible 3. I'm Matt McGregor, and as always, I'm joined by my co-hosts Harris McCabe and Colin Shaw. You're listening to License to Watch.
Why in the world was this movie made?
Welcome to License to Watch. We're talking about MI3, baby. Joining us today, we have a special guest, Mr. Tarik Jackson. What's up, fool?
Brother Reek.
Brother Reek.
How you doing?
In the house. In the digital.
In the motherfucking house.
In the quarantine.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, man. Tom Cruise. Short hair.
Yeah. They should have kept the haircut.
Yeah, I missed the long hair.
No, I like the short hair. That's like the most refreshing thing. I can't at the beginning of all these first scenes in this movie, I'm like, oh, he looks so much better with short hair. Why doesn't he always just do this?
It's strange to me, like, this movie doesn't feel like it came out that long ago. I mean, I guess it was like 15 or 14 years ago or something. I guess that is a long time, but it feels really, in a lot of ways, dated. I don't know, like, the haircuts or the clothing or something feels like of another time. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, like 15 years ago.
I'll say this. It felt more current than I was expecting because I know the franchise started in the 90s, and like the 90s ones have like a whole aesthetic to it that's very 90s action film. But some of the stuff with the CGI and I guess probably the way they was dressing the haircuts did feel like it wasn't 2017 or 2019, you know?
Yeah. Some of the technology,
it was the phones.
Like when he looks at the interface on the disposable phone thing, and they're showing him like the case information at the beginning, and it's like, this looks like something that you'd see on a camera or a small electronic device in the
but that
2000s.
shit always looks fake in movies because they can never do the real thing.
That Kodak product placement though, so good. Got that Kodak brand name right up in the frame.
I didn't even
really
realize,
good job of that.
I didn't even realize that it was Kodak. All I just thought the entire time was, man, I just want a disposable camera. Just a nice yellow disposable camera. It was it seeped right into my subconscious.
You can still get them.
It's true. You can. I was kind of surprised at how young Tom Cruise looks, and I say that because he looks the same now, but he's always kind of looked the same age, and even though he's like 60 or whatever, he still looks like he's in his 30s today. But it's like a weird kind of 30s, like it's like an uncanny valley 30s. Like when you see him in movies now, you're like, this guy definitely isn't 35, but he looks like a weird-looking 35-year-old. And when you look at this movie, it's kind of like he actually looks like pretty young. You know, I was like, damn, he really was young.
Did you see how he runs? He really runs funny.
Yeah.
Anyone else notice this?
They really highlight the running in this movie.
Well, I was gonna say,
he was running every fucking way.
Yeah, I think this is one of his all-time best running movie. I don't know far and away maybe. I can't think of other better running movies.
When he gets up to full speed and he's really chugging along, he's got his shoulders kind of sitting back to where they're like behind where his ass is, but his legs look pretty normal. But he's just got that slight lean where his shoulders are just like a little bit back over his butt cheeks, a little too far.
We call it the Yogi Bear.
Yeah, exactly like Yogi Bear, actually. Yes, that's precisely what it is.
His legs just go in like a circle.
Yeah.
It makes that cartoon sound effect when he runs.
Yeah. Well, I think like what he gets right is the arm pumping, which is I think Mel Gibson is probably the all-time great Hollywood runner, and it's all about like just the like machine-like forward motion arm pumping that really sells fast running.
It's this. You know what I'd like to do with your hands.
Yes, you have blade.
You know what
hands.
I'd like to do someday is like just somehow get like a famous actor in a scene with like Usain Bolt and have them both run and just watch Usain Bolt like really like outrun him and just.
But you just have Usain Bolt.
No, but you shoot the actor like if you would shoot him running in a movie, like he's fucking killing it, and then you cut to Usain just blowing him.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you cut to the wide and there's like 20 feet between them.
Almost a Wile E. Coyote shit with just smoke, but it's like just real. It's like shit, the track is burning.
Yeah. Shooting the actor in slow motion, and it's just like, whoa, whoa.
And And then you just pan a little bit to the left, and Usain Bolt's like very smoothly way ahead of him.
He's not even in the frame anymore. He's like done, and he's sipping a latte, and he's like didn't even break a sweat.
How does this movie start? What's the first scene?
It's the awesome cold open.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's such a great like progression in terms of like the writing of the conflict and the tactics they're both using. Like Tom Cruise is trying all these different tactics to get different results, and just every time he just gets shut down by Philip Seymour Hoffman. And both actors, especially Cruise, are fucking dynamite in this scene.
Yeah.
Really establishes the rabbit's foot as like the BS plot device that it is.
Yeah, well, they just drop you in there, and you're like, wait, what's the rabbit's foot? And who's this girl? And why is Philip Seymour Hoffman so mad? And is this the beginning of the movie, or do we flash forward, or and none of it even matters? But you're like,
Am I still watching Magnolia?
Yeah, yeah.
What'd you guys think of Lawrence Fishburne in this movie? I thought he was great. I'm like kind of annoyed that they didn't bring him back for the next one.
I think he's great in everything, so that's my 2 cents.
What's he best in? What's the height of Lawrence Fishburne?
He's coming
Boys
hot
in the
off
Hood.
the Matrix movies doing this, right? I think this is
Oh,
Right, he was
Morpheus.
Yeah, he was. Let's see, he did The Matrix, then he did this, and really, this was sort of like the. He didn't do as much after this because he's doing the Matrix sequels, and he's doing some other random stuff. Then he does the Hannibal TV show, which if you guys never saw it, that Hannibal TV show was awesome.
yeah. I saw the first season. It was solid.
Yeah, and
a long time ago, like 10 years ago, I watched his Othello. And
yeah, his Othello is very good.
Ever since then, I was like, yeah, this guy, he's legit.
So he started off almost as like a child. He was me in Cornbread Earl and Me. So he was like almost a child actor in Cornbread Earl and Me. And
Apocalypse
then
Now.
Then he was a teenager in Apocalypse Now. Then he was in Rumblefish, King of New York, Boys in the Hood.
King of New York, he was great. Don't forget about Pee Wee's Playhouse.
Deep,
Lawrence
Deep
Fishburne,
Cover.
give his respect for Pee Wee's Playhouse.
He played Ike Turner in What's Love Got to Do with This.
He
in
played
Searching
Ike
for Bobby
Turner in
Fischer.
Pee Wee's
I never
Playhouse.
He's played Ike Turner in Pee Wee's Playhouse. He was Searching for Bobby Fischer. He was in Higher Learning, Event Horizon.
Higher Learning was solid.
Dude,
But he
Event
was- he was
Horizon
Boys
is
in
the
the Hood.
shit.
Yeah.
I don't like Event Horizon, but he's still good in everything.
Why don't you like Event Horizon?
It's just gross. Come on.
It is really gross.
It's icky, frankly.
He was, you know what he was great in though? He was great in, if you guys ever get a chance to check out King of New York, he was amazing.
He was
in King of New
fantastic.
York. Christopher Walken and Lawrence Fishburne are both giving probably their career best performances in that.
I'm gonna say this about the Fish. Fish has like his very popular roles that everybody kind of agrees is like, like if you weren't a Fish fan or you don't watch a lot of movies, you will know these 5 movies. You know he did good in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A whole plethora of movies that he was either small enough in it we forgot he was in it. He was really young, or he had like small scenes like King of New York, Cotton Club, Rumblefish, Apocalypse Now,
Predator 4. Sorry.
Predator 4. You know, where it's just kind of like, oh yeah, Fish was in that, and he was great. You
Yeah,
know what
that's
I'm saying?
he kept on popping up in those Coppola movies in these minor roles that were really impactful. But I mean, he basically steals King of New York right out from under Walken and a bunch of other really good actors.
They should have. Yeah, he kind of should have been the lead in that.
He in a way he kind of was. It was definitely a movie about Walken's character, but I mean he has almost as much screen time as anyone else in that movie.
Yeah, I need to be watching. I was just talking to my mother about that one.
Oh yeah, it's great. It was on Amazon Prime for. I mean, I think I have that on Blu-ray, but it was on Amazon Prime for a while.
Basically, no one doesn't like him as Morpheus, though.
That's
you
true.
know, like everyone, it's pretty much unanimous that like everyone likes him
Morpheus.
as Morpheus. The only thing is, there's the theory that Morpheus is really the villain because why give him the pills at all? You know, like they probably should just choose to stay in.
I think that's might be missing one of the points of the movie. Them actually getting to make that choice.
I know. I would take the red.
The way they leave it at the end of the movie, it's kind of like it seems like they're setting him up to be Tom Cruise's handler in future episodes, almost exactly the same way they did with Alec Baldwin not appreciating him and then becoming his boss
Right.
who thinks that who trusts him and thinks that he's great. They sort of set it up and then they dropped it, and I'm curious why. We also have, let's just talk about the cast right now since we're doing it.
Sure.
We've got Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, who also is a one and done here, who is, I think, good.
That's the Dr. Manhattan guy?
No.
No, that's
shit. My bad.
his Irish
The white sidekick guy?
sidekick.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then we got Maggie Q, who I just found out in doing research for this podcast, the Q stands for Quigley, because she's half like Irish or Scottish or whatever, or her dad is like of Scottish descent or something like that, which made me think like a lot less exotic looking. Like I can definitely, if her name was Maggie Quigley, I'd be like, oh, that's funny, she looks a little Asian.
Yeah.
whereas
hell,
when her name's
Harris?
Maggie Q, I'm like, oh, she's Asian. She was also born in Honolulu, Hawaii, probably in the same hospital as me, just a few months after I was, which I thought was weird.
That's
Okay, Hawaii.
Although she got to grow up in Hawaii and we moved when I was a baby.
Maybe you're twins or clones or
Honolulu?
something. You think you're clones
I assume that we're clones because we look exactly
of each other? Right,
Yeah.
right.
You look just
Was
as good
it-
in that dress.
Yeah. Was anyone else? Okay, sorry. Was anyone else like? Why is she wearing that dress in the Vatican? Like,
Because he was trying to fit in. He was trying to look like one of those Cardinals.
Yeah,
I know, but it's really provocative.
trying to test the Pope. You got to make sure.
Yeah.
You got to make sure
You
he's
gotta make sure.
gotta make sure he's committed.
Wait, quick question. So was Billy Crudup in Mission Impossible 2? Like, was he his handler in the first two Mission Impossibles, or was
No.
this like a new thing?
The only
No,
people in this movie who were in the previous movie are Tom Cruise and Ving Rhames.
Big Rames.
Yeah, Ving Rhames.
Big Rames is in all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And Simon Pegg now.
Yeah.
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 So
Simon Pegg is in
basically-
everyone after this.
Is the Mission Impossible franchise basically they reset every film? it's like it's Tom Cruise, and the last story he may have been married. This story he got an adopted kid and he got a whole new boss. Is it like that?
Pretty much. Yep.
Yeah, kind of. Although Michelle Monaghan shows up in all the or in two of the three following ones, right?
Is she the
shows up-
wife?
She
yeah.
pops up, in like a cameo, basically, in the
yeah,
next
at the end
two
of
them, I think.
of
The next
know,
one, yeah.
Ghost Protocol, and then at the end of the most recent one.
Mhm.
She's not in. She's actually got a pretty decent sized part in the end of the most recent one.
Yeah.
And I
She's the
I'm a-
wife. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of hers. She's amazing.
Really? I think she's a terrible actress.
Really? Oh, have you ever seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
I have. I actually, she's okay in that. Yeah, but in this
She's
movie,
You talking about
I don't know.
the actress that plays his wife?
Yeah.
She's great in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. She's great in Gone Baby Gone. She's great in Trucker. She's great in Source Code. She's good in a lot.
Yeah,
of movies.
Kiss Bang Bang. I didn't see the whole thing. I got through the first kiss and half of the second kiss. I didn't get to the bang.
Stupid.
Sorry.
That's such a
she's
good movie. The Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is probably like one of my favorite movies of the last 20 years or whatever.
It's the last good Shane Black movie.
Yeah, right.
Nah.
Exactly. It was
Y'all didn't like the Nice Guys?
I like The Nice Guys. It wasn't as good as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I feel like it's the first great Shane Black movie and also the last great Shane Black movie.
Yeah.
He's always good for
Interesting.
like a decent, entertaining movie, but that's like the first time that I was like, "Holy shit, this guy's amazing!" And then everything he's done since then is like, "Oh, not as good."
I cannot forgive the Predator movie that he did. I just can't. I'll never look at him the same way.
Which one is that?
The newest Predator, the Predator movie.
Not the Lawrence Fishburne one.
No, that one's just that.
Right.
That's
Okay.
Predator.
You're talking about the Olivia Munn one.
Yeah.
Olivia Moon. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. She looked good in that.
Do you feel like that movie, most recent Predator movie, was maybe a joke?
Who's the
I feel
joke
like
on?
Maybe it's like an elaborate. It's like an elaborate send up of Predator movies.
Ugh.
But what's the woman's name we were talking about?
Michelle Monaghan.
It's not Monaghan.
I think it's Monahan. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It could be.
Anyways, she's pretty good, but she looks like this girl I used to know, and I can only think about that when I'm watching her.
Is the girl you used to know Rebecca Ferguson, who's in the most recent two Mission Impossible movies? Because I always
No.
found that a little odd that they cast an actress that kind of looks like the actress that plays his wife to play his new love interest.
Yeah, that stuff happens all the time.
Yeah. I mean, that's
well,
his
no,
type.
I mean, Ethan Hunt has a type, yeah. And
Who
they
else?
both kind of look like white Tandy Newtons. Which is
Yeah.
very, very consistent.
They all got the same face.
Yeah.
But they all look like Katie Holmes though. That's like that. I was watching this. I was like, don't nobody else notice this is the Katie Holmes look? And like, I wonder. It's almost like because the Katie Holmes look is very different from the Nicole Kidman look. So I gotta go back to the first two and be like, I wonder what the actresses look like in those two. Because those was in the 90s. I'm like, if they look like Nicole Kidman, we figured it out.
They don't actually. I think
out.
the girl in the first movie looks kind of like these girls that we're talking about. Also, she's like.
So
the
then we
brunette.
figured it out again.
Yeah, but then the girl in the
That's
second
how
one is
early he
Tandy
was.
Newton.
That's how they hired Katie to play his wife. I mean, that's how they hired her to play his wife. I mean, that's how they found he. Damn it.
Ah! Ah!
Yeah, I feel like this is the first one where I was super conscious of his, Scientology affiliation, but at the point of actually seeing the movie.
That was because this was the couch jumping he did before this one, right?
Yeah, right.
So
Yeah, we kind of
so
touched
he
on
was in
that
the
in the
news.
last episode that this movie didn't do as well because Tom Cruise had just done the couch jumping thing on the Oprah Winfrey show, and America was not happy with Tom.
So I couldn't find anywhere that this was actually why this didn't do as well. Like that really was. I mean, it's true that happened just before this came out, but I couldn't. There was also the thing with the South Park that Viacom people claimed that he told Viacom that if they re-aired the South Park episode "Trapped in the Closet" that was about him and Scientology, that he wouldn't do any press for the movie, and it was this whole like. Of course, a bunch of morons were like, "That's freedom of speech. That's repression," and because Viacom clearly is being oppressed by Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
But I think the Tom Cruise associated with Scientology bad press thing started happening, and the couch jumping thing just became symbolic of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think all that is connected. I just don't know what bearing it has on the performance of the movie. I think it's more likely that this movie suffered because the second one wasn't as good as the first one. And
It's possible people were staying away.
They had to win people back to the franchise a little bit.
Yeah.
Which this movie wasn't. It's hard to call it a failure. It wasn't really. It was a $150 million budget that made almost $400 million. So. Pretty good, like that's profitable. They wanted to make another one right away. Nobody was complaining about how this performed. It just didn't do as good as MI2.
They all usually do pretty good though, right?
Yeah, the first one did well. The second one did even better than this. I think that's why this was the first time in the series, and one of the only times in the series that it took a step
dip.
back.
Yeah, which is weird. And then literally after this, I think everyone just like makes more and more money, going up and up and up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, what's weird is I was watching what's it called? Last Dance before this, and Ving Rhames is just such a great sidekick that I was imagining Ving Rhames playing on the Bulls with Pippen and Jordan and winning championships.
Oh my God, this is going to turn into.
And that's just something I thought about. I don't know if you guys
fan?
were thinking. 90s
Usually-
Bulls?
Usually when Colin works that hard to shoehorn some random thing that doesn't have anything to do with anything in, it's because he's trying to make some awful pun. I'm kind of disappointed that this was just like a complete non sequitur.
Yeah. I mean, we could get it to the Last Dance. But
we could just cut all this out. I think.
Why not? Why can't we talk
Are you a
about it?
Pistons fan, Harris?
No, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't have a lot to say on it yet.
Colin's really just trying to work his way to Space Jam so that we have to watch that for our bonus movie.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm always.
No, I know what I'm going to suggest for a bonus movie. It's not Space Jam. But maybe it is
shit.
Space Jam now.
Well, let's keep going through the cast, and maybe we'll get to your bonus movie suggestion. Carrie
yeah.
Ann Moss was supposed to be in this movie, and then when J.J. Abrams took over as director, he wrote out her character. But that would have been cool. That would have been
Who
Morpheus.
she played?
She was a totally new character that they just
Different character.
they wrote
yeah.
out. Yeah.
He also
Damn.
cast his good friend and Felicity star Kerry Russell
Kerry Russell.
in a part that was originally supposed to be Scarlett Johansson.
Yep.
I was watching this. I was like, "Yo, is this Felicity? They got
It
Felicity
is.
in Mission Impossible."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Was this before Felicity, or was this during the Felicity height?" And I was like, "That's a good look for Felicity."
Well, it's funny because this was like this is a real departure for her because she hadn't done anything that was sort of like action and serious and grown up and whatever. Like after Felicity, she spent a lot of time as just kind of this actress that was in like failed TV series and random things.
She would just play like the wife of the main
Yeah,
character.
Before she caught on with
Like
The Americans, which she's awesome on, and you can actually see a lot of, like, you can sort of see some of the nascent stages of The Americans in this performance, where it's like she's kind of an ass kicker and she's very like serious and like playing a very adult,
Totally. I'm like knee deep
badass
in
character.
in the Americans right now, and so when I saw her pop up, I was like, "Fuck yes."
Which is the exact opposite of the reaction I had when I first saw this movie, which was Felicity. I don't know if I buy her kicking ass, and now when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, Kerry Russell could kick ass.
Totally.
Was anyone else disturbed by how long they held that shot of her dead body with the eye rolled back in the wrong direction?
Yeah, and then they had to show it again when they unzipped her body bag.
Yeah, what was that?
Edge. That's what that was. That was J.J. Abrams. Like,
it was really effective. I was like, I remember that being like that shit was like nightmare fuel the first time I saw this movie. And I was definitely looking at it this time and being like, wow, they cut to that a lot, and it's still fucking horrifying.
It's horrifying, but almost to a comical effect. It's like it looks cartoonish almost.
I feel like they probably went to the well one too many times.
And it's weird how she's still hot, right, guys?
all right, let's stop.
I mean, we were all thinking it.
Colin just invented a new fetish.
It's not new. It's not new.
Can you look like your brain just exploded on the inside of your skull? Because that's
so
what I'm
gross.
into. That's my thing.
Oh man,
That's
Simon
nasty.
Pegg was originally Ricky Gervais was going to play that role, and then
I read
he
that.
had to
That's-
bail.
Oh, wow.
That would have been weird.
So
Definitely would have been weird. And it's funny how of all the people in the movie, that's the character that caught on and they kept. As far as I know, Jonathan Rhys Davis. Oh my God, that cat needs to be fed, doesn't he, Colin?
He's got food.
Colin's got a cat.
It's closer to
emergency.
here than wherever he is. I don't know what he's doing at all.
But I think like Jonathan Rhys Meyers and Maggie Q, I think it was both scheduling conflicts that they didn't come back for the second one. I think, but or for a second one or the fourth one. But I feel like it's really funny that Simon Pegg, especially since his character is like a computer guy who Ving Rhames' character is already a computer guy, but they're like, hey, we really like Simon Pegg in this movie. Also, Simon Pegg looking a little thick in this.
He did. He looked a little svelte.
I don't know if he was bulked up or what, if he was hitting the gym because he was at a desk in a Mission Impossible movie, but definitely young and a little bulky.
Maybe in early stages he had an action scene that they cut.
Maybe. And also, so the last piece of recasting that they had was it was originally Kenneth Branagh supposed to play the bad guy in this. And
Oh, that's interesting.
They cast Philip Seymour Hoffman, who is
What?
this is one of my favorite Philip Seymour Hoffman roles, and I think really makes this movie like way more enjoyable for me than I think it would be otherwise.
Yeah, he's the highlight of this movie.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I kind of wish he played like big budget blockbuster bad guys more often because
I was thinking
it's so weird, but it's so good.
Is this his highest grossing movie ever? Is this like Philip Seymour Hoffman's biggest movie?
We should pause for a second. I think we lost Reek on the Zoom feed.
Oh shit! Oh, he's coming back.
Yo, they kicked me out. But
Oh,
I'm still recording.
No.
Oh, you're still recording? Good.
Okay.
Then we'll just keep going.
I'm still
we
recording
will.
though.
Yeah, we actually stopped because we noticed you disappeared.
I'm still recording. We just keep it going. Talk about Kenneth Branagh and shit.
Yeah, we were just talking about Philip Seymour Hoffman and how he's great in this movie.
Now he was amazing. He stole the show. And he was like, I think, I just saw it for the first time today. I wouldn't say at this time. I don't know if there were a lot of actors of his caliber doing these type of movies. So I feel like he definitely brought a level to it that was kind of, I don't want to say Joker-esque. I feel like Joker's probably the best villain, but like it's in that realm where it's just kind of like you don't know what he's about to do, and you don't know what's on his biscuit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. He's definitely like kind of a loose cannon, a very weird character to play a bad guy, because he is kind of like this weird version of like the creepy mouth breathing Philip Seymour Hoffman from, like I feel like he plays every once in a while he plays like
you talk about from Punch Drunk.
Yeah,
Punch
from Punch Drunk Love, or from Scent of a Woman, or even a little bit from like Big Lebowski, but like
shit,
or
even
the
a little bit from Along Came Polly.
Yeah. Talented Mr. Ripley. Sometimes he plays like kind of normal characters, like in Twister, or oh my God, talk about creepy mouth breathing, Boogie Nights. Like he's got these roles where, he's got these roles where he's just like totally off-putting, and it's like they took one of these creepy characters from these other artsy movies and just was like, what if he was like an arms dealer or something, but still really creepy.
I think that's part of what a great job he does is you've seen him, you know him, and you've seen him as someone that is not menacing or threatening or intimidating to you, and in this he is menacing, threatening, intimidating, and you cannot explain why. But like, I don't know. I mean, he's great in everything. Yeah,
because right out the gate, like he's so confident in his villainy, like. Yeah. He's just like, you've seen that thing where someone's counting down and like, give me the information, and they're not going to give you the information. So like, you just like, he's like, I'm going to kill your, loved ones and whatever. Like whatever he says, like you just buy it because this guy is like the kind of person who would do exactly that. And like, he gets picked up by the helicopter scene on the bridge or whatever. And then like within minutes, Tom Cruise's wife is being like picked up at the hospital. He's just got so much power, and he can just get shit done.
Imagine, as like a thought experiment, imagine if this movie had started with the party at Tom Cruise's house, and they hadn't started with the cold open of Philip Seymour, because really that's probably the way the script was written, and Philip Seymour Hoffman wouldn't have come in until like an hour into the movie when they're in the Vatican bathroom with him. Like imagine how much having to wait that long to establish this character and this actor, instead of coming in with like a dynamite, like maybe the best scene in the movie right off the bat, and you're like, okay, I'm committed. This is gonna work.
They also could have opened the movie with the whole. My memory had served me incorrectly. I thought that the opening scene of the movie was when they saved Kerry Russell from the building. Yeah. That feels like a cold open kind of scene.
Totally.
But yeah, no, you're right. Like they must have realized in the edit room, like we need to start with Philip Seymour Hoffman. It totally like sets the tone for his character and for the the stakes of the movie are so high. Yeah. Is that a cat? I hear it.
Yeah, he's just, I don't know what he's going on with him, but he definitely is trying to talk about something.
He's got a lot to say about this movie.
Yeah, I think
got a lot of
he
thoughts
wants it
on
too.
PSH.
Yeah. Philip Seymour Hoffman's good.
I also was alarmed to see that Philip Seymour Hoffman was only 5 years older than I am when he died, which was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
When he died, it was tragic to me. Just because of the way he died, and like just knowing, that he was, gifted, he was talented, and it just hit me that was, just a few years ago, and just where I was at in life, it really hit me and like shocked me and hurt me,
Well, I'm sorry that his death was so rough on you.
It did.
It was rough. It was one of those deaths in the the general public, It was like, wow, you felt that. Like when Heath Ledger died too, I feel like that struck people. Yeah.
It was really close to the Prince death also, I believe, and which was also just like that hurt me too,
Yeah.
I want to say with Philip Seymour Hoffman, I always felt with that death that I was happy that I was able to appreciate him so much when he was alive, and it really hurt me when he died. But at least I was like, you know what? The time that he was here, I felt like I appreciated his skill set to the highest degree. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because he was, I never seen a bad performance from him, and I don't even know if he was in too many stinkers. But especially when he got into his groove, when he was like, he can make his own movies, he really picked some solid performances and like projects to be a part of.
Yeah, we just watched him in Twister recently where he was playing basically a Jack Black character. That movie is terrible, and he is not great in it, but it's mostly just because of what the role is.
It's great, and he's great in it. You're wrong.
He did the Black Jack thing in Along Came Polly too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, he has like 2 weird Jack Black roles on his resume.
He's also
His character in Along Came Polly is nuanced, though. Like, to be like basically a former star of like a Breakfast Club type movie, and like the way he worked, it's so good.
Yeah, the basketball scenes are amazing in that movie.
Is that when he sharts? He says he sharted.
Net wet. No, he sharted in the party scene when he met Polly.
Yeah.
Come on, we gotta go. I just sharted.
But
A line I've said
also,
many times in my life.
What's also funny is that he became he is such a character actor, and that is like so specifically like you can't even an actor who looks like him and who has kind of the mannerisms and the distinctive voice and the really got this really low voice and his kind of nasally delivery, and that you'd think he'd be like stuck playing. Maybe this would be the closest he'd come to a major role in a movie is playing the bad guy in something. And he became a leading man, like he in the right movies, like Before the Devil Knows You're Dead and Charlie Wilson's War and Synecdoche, New York and The Master. It was like he was, getting these sort of main roles in movies in weird ways where it was like, okay, do you want to just cast this in an interesting way? It's kind of like the things that Paul Giamatti gets too. It's just interesting that when sometimes you see these character actors who have careers that just sort of take them into interesting leading man type of roles in the right movies.
Yeah, I love when it happens, like when a character actor wins the Academy Award for some, role that they did, as like he did Capote, Yeah. And then after that, his career totally shifted into like leading man territory. And same with Paul. I don't know. Did Paul Giamatti win an Oscar? He won something, and he launched, and became more of a leading man.
Yeah, what
I don't
was
remember.
His big breakout?
I don't know. Was it the wine one? Wine Country. Sideways.
What is the name of that? Sideways. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Did he win for that, or did Sideways just like get so much recognition?
Sideways got a lot of recognition, and I think he was nominated.
I think Thomas Hayden Church won.
Yeah.
For supporting actor, right? Yeah.
Right.
And then he went
also,
on to
didn't
do
Sideways
Spider-Man.
make like 10 times the amount of money it was supposed to make, or something like that?
It did very well.
It was really.
It did
It's
very
still
well.
a good movie. I watched it recently, actually. It's hilarious.
That was the film that we had to direct in comedy directing.
Oh yeah.
We had to direct scenes from there.
What scene?
You picked your own scene, but
okay.
that was like the script that Barnett would just give and be like, you got to pick a scene from here.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, I like Sideways. I like Sideways a lot.
Have you guys seen Alexander Payne's newest movie, the Matt Damon?
The one with Matt Damon?
Yeah.
I wanted to see it when it was in theaters, and I just didn't get a chance to. And then it didn't get good reviews, and it wasn't in theaters long, so I was like, I'll just catch it when it's on VOD.
Is
that the one where he shrinks into little people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I did not see that.
I had the same thing of Reek is like I was like, oh, that looks cool. I'm gonna check it out, and then like the reviews started coming out, and I was like, oh, I'll wait until it's somewhere else, and then it started showing up somewhere else, and I was like, oh, I'll watch something different.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was weird? When I watched the trailer for it, I felt like from watching the trailer, I was like, I think this movie's targeted for boomers and like not us.
Mm-hmm.
All of his movies are targeted for boomers.
You may have a point.
Alexander Payne does not know how to slide in no DMs, so he ain't making no movies for us. If Alexander Payne has slid in a DM, then maybe he'd be making some shit for us. But until that day,
That is true.
until he got into a Twitter beef.
Have we mentioned everyone in this cast?
I think we have. We've
We
gotten
did.
through everyone. Oh, we didn't mention Eddie Marson, who is the guy who I don't even know if he has any lines, but he's the guy who plays. He's the dude who puts the stuff up people's noses.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that
and
guy.
He's a guy
creepy.
from
the
other. He's
German.
been, yeah, he's in like Ray Donovan and a couple other. He's a guy who shows up in movies.
So I was an extra many moons ago in the J.J. Abrams, the first Star Trek movie, and I was in a scene that was like with a lot of people, and we were sitting. It was like a what do you call it? A trial kind of a scene, and I was in the audience of the trial, and one of the
Did your
guys,
character have a name?
just round-faced guy.
Did you give your character a chubby nerd? Did you give your character a name? You got to fill out the backstory, Matt. That's a secret.
Colin, what's a good Star Trek name? I was a cadet. I was a space cadet.
Bleep bloop.
Oh,
Bleep, bleep, bleep.
were you a human or
I was
were
a
you
human.
or were you like, oh, then Matt McGregor is probably your character.
Yeah, I guess. Anyway,
And Matt McGregor as himself.
You could be like Patrick Stewart, where like in real life you're English, but in Star Trek you're French. So you could do that, something like that. Maybe you're Canadian Matt McGregor or something.
it's just me, but I just say A after everything.
Yeah.
So they asked me when I signed on for that. They said, "Do you want to be an alien? And you'll get paid more if you wear like alien makeup, but no one will see your face, and they'll never know that you're in this movie. And you'll tell people, and they won't believe you." So I was like, "Fuck that! I don't want to be an alien."
I'm in it for the fame, not the money.
Yeah, exactly. But the guy sitting next to me in that trial scene was an alien, and he was a very big, like hulking kind of a person. And I got to talking to him, and he told me that his name is Jeff Chase, and I might recognize him from Mission Impossible 3. And I said, "What role were you in that movie?" And he said, "I was Owen Davien's bodyguard who goes into the bathroom." Do you remember like when they're kidnapping him?
Oh, yeah.
Remember that big guy? That's
One of
him.
my biggest questions for this entire fucking movie is, where is that dude at the end of the movie? Like, why doesn't Tom Cruise have to fight that dude at some point?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. So it turns out
He must have been like a local hire in the Vatican. Where
Yeah.
Davien is like, do you got any just giant dudes who are just like in the area who work? I don't have to pay their travel expenses. You know?
So much like the actor Greg Grunberg, Jeff Chase is like a good friend of J.J. Abrams, and he puts him in like either all of his movies or most of his movies or something.
Yeah.
So that was his biggest part that he's ever had, I think, in a J.J. Abrams.
He had lines, and it was like an important moment. He was acting across one of the greatest actors of his generation.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Should we do a plot summary of this bad boy?
Yeah, Colin, you ready?
Okay, wait. I have a story about the time J.J. Abrams when he found out that Carrie-Anne Moss couldn't be in the movie. He came in and he was like, "Loss." Oh fuck. He's like, "Moss is a loss."
Wow. I'm definitely cutting that.
Yes, please cut. No, you know what? Leave that in, Matt. The people deserve to know just what kind of shit we have to put up
Shame.
with. Colin.
Shame.
Reek, you liked it, right? That was worth. That was worth.
That was
saying
great. That was worth the little side adage. We lost the Moss. God damn it, we lost the Moss.
Yeah, exactly.
Just imagine. I always imagine some old angry producer somewhere in the cut with a cigar.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Like, have y'all seen the trailer for that new Ryan Murphy show, Hollywood?
Yeah, I saw it.
I feel like I don't give a fuck what year the shit is. It could be 2005, 1997. He always looks like he's from that time period. Like, he's like with a zoot suit and a cigar. God damn it, we lost the Moss.
We're gonna have to get a new dame for this picture.
When did executives stop talking like that?
Never.
I think recently.
They still talk like
They
that.
might still do it. I don't know. I haven't met with any executives. Lately.
Behind closed doors, you don't know what goes on.
Yeah.
I think that should be, because I wonder if executives never actually spoke in that lingo or in that tone, but because all the writers and actors hated the money people back then, they probably just made them into these silly characters that now in 2020 we have no other rhyme or reason, because in these documentaries they weren't talking in like the 1930s. There's no talkies at CC Build the Mill. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe this is all just a caricature that people have invented.
It's
And
all
executives,
lies.
the
I feel
reason
like it's got to be based on something.
You think so?
It's got to be.
Why would Americans talk so fast like that though back then?
I don't know.
They just did. That's how they did it.
I mean, they probably all didn't. But
You know what the one I always want is somebody saying they need something in the picture.
Right.
The kid stays in the picture.
We need a yeah.
Or like the old newspaper people where
if
they
you
were like,
watch,
"Hey, you got the inside scoop?"
Yeah, if you watch like Barton Fink and they're all talking about it's a Wallace Beery wrestling picture.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's like.
We
I
better
think
see
it's
some gams in this picture.
Yeah, a lot of it's just like how
Ooh,
language
gams.
evolves. Yeah.
I love the word gams. That's
23 skidoo.
Gams is one of those words where it's good because I do feel like it gives you a little bit of that feeling of like, what are nice legs? They're gams, you know.
They're gammy.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah,
You make it sound like you're talking about your grandmother. Like I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
gammy.
Nice gams, Grandma. Like, oh, thank you, sweetie. Weird, but thank you.
I've been
All right,
working out my
Colin.
calves.
Colin, you
Yeah.
ready to summarize this shit?
All right, I'm ready.
All right, I'm
Tell me when to go.
Time's up. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the movie starts, and you're way into the movie, and this guy's threatening Tom Cruise. He's like, I'm gonna kill your wife! I'm gonna kill your fucking wife! Give me the rabbit's foot! And Tom Cruise is like, I don't know what to do! And then cut to everything's cool. Tom Cruise is like hanging out with his wife, and they're like having a little party, and like the neighbors and the fam's all over, and they're like, yeah, we're having fun partying. And then he's like, oh, I work for the DMV or whatever. I watch traffic because I'm lame. And then he goes to the 7-Eleven because he gets a weird phone call, and the IMF guy is there, and he's like, I'm your IMF guy. You need to stop training and get back in the field. Here's this disposable Kodak camera. And he looks at the Kodak camera, and it gives him a mission, and he has to go save his old friend. And then they save him with Ving Rhames and the crew, and there's tons of action. And she's got a thing in her head that explodes her brain, and he is pissed. So he goes after the guy that they were going after, or that she was going after. So then he goes in the Vatican, he pretends to be him and pretends that he's dead, and then they capture him and they try to bring him back. But there's a betrayer in the IMF, and so they get ambushed and they take him back to being, still the bad guy. And then he's like, oh fuck, what do? I gotta go find my wife because this guy's gonna get my wife, And then he goes in there and he already got her. Then the IMF takes him in and they're like, we gotta debrief you or whatever, you're fucking up. And then he's like, oh no, there's a betrayer in here because clearly there's a betrayer, and the Kerry Russell told me. And then he breaks out of there because one guy helps him. But then he gets captured again, and then we go back to the beginning where he was at that scene where the guy's like, I'm gonna kill your wife! And then he kills the wife, but then it turns out it's not the wife, and then we find out who the IMF betrayer is, and it's the first guy from the 7-Eleven, and he's like, fuck. So Tom Cruise breaks out of there, saves the wife, and defuses the brain bomb in his head, and then just kicks everybody's ass and wins. And Ving Rhames is there in the end like, good job, go fuck your wife.
Perfect.
That was an amazing summary, brother.
Thank you.
Now, here's the question I have for everybody. How do we know Lawrence Fishburne wasn't a bad guy? Because they were setting him up the whole time to be the bad guy. Like he was the one that was a mole, and Billy Crudup was the homie. But then Billy Crudup ended up being evil, but they never told us that Lawrence Fishburne wasn't. Like they showed him stopping them guys at the tarmac, and I was just kind of like, so what does this mean? And then at the end, he's just there talking to him.
I think the conversation that Billy Crudup has when Tom Cruise is still, tied up, whatever he says to him kind of implies that Tom Cruise is taking
was
that.
setting him up.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, he asks if what's her name bought that Brassel was the one setting her up. Can we talk about that conversation, because that was the Billy Crudup thing where he's got Tom Cruise in the chair, and it's just like, first of all, Billy Crudup has a ton of bronzer on his face, but not on his neck or eyes or ears, which was very distracting to me the entire time. But more importantly, he's like, what was Lindsay's message? What did Lindsay say about me and Davien? Is that what she sent the message to you? Did you read it? Did anybody else see it? Did she know about what I was doing? Could I be compromised at IMF? Did she buy that Brassel set her up? Did she buy that? Ethan?
Does she say any of these specific things?
He didn't, and he doesn't give a break for the guy to answer at any point. He just asks one question after another for like 15 straight seconds. It's totally bizarre. I was like, wow, this is like a different interrogating technique where you just get all the questions out up front and then you just, I don't know, wait. Just answer any of those. Anyone, just pick one.
Yeah, Billy Crudup he's clearly bad, and Lawrence Fishburne is clearly good, and that's how it is. That's what happened with Dr. Manhattan. That's what happened with Morpheus. That's what happened with Life.
Billy Crudup, is he the one who left his pregnant girlfriend for someone else, or a pregnant wife? Do you guys know his like
Who did he?
Yeah,
Is that true?
It was either his wife or his girlfriend, but she was 9 months pregnant, and he left her for another woman.
Wow.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a real.
That's
Wait,
rough.
Billy Crudup did that?
Yeah, Billy Crudup did that.
Is he?
Yeah.
And then I think he left her for Julianne Moore, or at least he started dating Julianne Moore, I think, later on. I actually saw them at a restaurant once together. They were sitting next to me.
I mean, you wouldn't give it all up for Julianne Moore?
Well,
Come on, she's like an Oscar-winning actress.
I'm not into redheads.
Oh. Oh no, not Julianne Moore. It was Claire Danes.
Oh,
So
really?
I was going to say Julianne Moore would be trading older. That's not usually the way it works. Claire Danes is probably trading younger. And it was Mary Louise Parker, who was 7 months pregnant.
Oh,
7 months.
no, you don't
7
do
months
that.
pregnant.
No.
Yeah, I know, really.
Who's Mary
Ouch.
Louise Parker?
Mary Louise Parker is the star of Weeds.
Oh, shit. But who'd he get?
Claire Danes, and then apparently that
A
didn't
tough
last
call.
either, because he's been dating Naomi Watts since 2017, which I thought her and Lev Schreiber
Oh.
were a really good couple. So I'm kind of sad about that. But
Yeah.
He has a type.
yeah,
I like
actresses,
Naomi
famous
Watts.
actresses is his type.
Yeah. Yeah.
He has a type. Famous white actresses is a type.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he is like, he's got a weird career where he's really famous, but like, what has he been in really? You know?
Yeah, he's
Almost
Dr.
Famous.
Manhattan. He's almost
Yeah.
famous. Right?
Almost famous. It's Without Limits, the Prefontaine movie that wasn't called Prefontaine.
He's been in
I
a
think
few
he's
good
more-
movies.
you know what it is?
And what?
He looks like a movie star. He has a very traditional, attractive look, and so I feel
Yeah.
like that gives him an aura, especially in his demographic. Like I'm sure, like he probably gets talked about within that demographic of women in that age range who are attracted to that type of man.
Yeah,
And
that's
what
true.
keeps him famous.
That's true. I feel like if you were
Like-
casting like a 1950s generic good-looking man, white man,
White
like,
man.
that's probably yeah.
And that's how you
Like-
know he's a bad guy in this movie, is because his character is so boring that you're like, there's no way that this is all this guy is like the friendly dude who wants to
He's
help
boring
out
as
Tom
fuck,
Cruise.
actually.
Yeah.
He plays
Yeah,
boring
he's-
amazingly.
It's suspicious how boring and white he is.
He's so boring that it's like, is he incompetent or like, does he
Right.
know what he's doing? Like-
Well, they said that his father knows the president,
Right.
Oh right.
so it's like that's my thinking of it was. It's like, well, maybe it's a. Oh no, that's it.
Yeah, well,
I
they're
think maybe
definitely,
it's,
they're definitely playing up that
privilege
idea
thing.
of him being sort of a legacy hire, you know, who might not be totally competent, but is just sort of the boring white guy.
Yeah.
Well, you know what Billy Crudup calls his bad movies?
What?
Crud.
Yo, do you write these
I mean,
puns out
that's-
before, or like did they just come off the top of the dome?
No,
I've
it
always
just
been really
happens.
fascinated with
I mean,
punters.
That's such low hanging fruit. I can't even believe you wasted your time with that.
It just happens.
I don't know. Look, I'm really fascinated with puns. The same way I'm really fascinated with like impersonations, and like because it's like it's such a specific thing. You have to then train your mind for it, or just be always looking for them. And it is out of.
I think
Yeah,
it's
I'm
actually
really-
a problem. Like I've trained my mind for it in a way that is bad, where I want to think normal thoughts, and instead my mind is like, let's make a little funny. And
Well, that's
I'm
why-
like,
I think that's why people try to demean it though. It's like cause like I think it's one of those things where it's just kind of like it's clever. People who don't pun can't do puns. And they're like, well, people who do puns are corny. It's like, well, you just don't have that skill set to pun. You get what I'm saying?
Right, they're just jealous.
you have to walk that line between like being too corny and too clever.
Well, I think,
And-
Colin, you have never erred on the side of too clever, which I think is part of what's so frustrating about this.
I mean, they do the same thing with impressionists. I'm like, people are just jealous that impressionists have this talent, so they don't want them to be megastars
No,
anymore.
listen, I feel like you're upgrading the level of like comparing a good pun to a good impression. I'm like pun is more like ventriloquism. It's like kind of creepy and annoying.
Oh, that's cold.
It's like yes.
Ventriloquists deserve respect too.
Yes, granted, it is a skill, and I can't do it, but there's no jealousy there. There's like,
Oh, you're definitely a pun hater.
You're the pun hater. You discovered Harris is a pun hater.
We found him. We found one.
no, I do appreciate a good pun, which is again why Colin does not really do it for me.
Here we go. The best part of BoJack Horseman is the puns.
That is true.
I never watched that show.
Crushing it with
I
the
agree.
puns.
Reek, there's something you should know about this. Something we do on this show. It's like we realize we drop a lot of other movies when we're talking about one, a Mission Impossible movie. So we decided that our bonus Patreon show would consist of us reviewing one of the movies that we discuss on the main show. So already we've named a few movies during the course of this show, but Harris, going back to something you said earlier when you mentioned Prefontaine and Without Limits, I was actually giving it some forethought, and I was like, what movies are we going to talk about in Mission Impossible 3? And I was like, well, there's a lot of running in this movie, so maybe we'll talk about other running movies like Chariots of Fire or Prefontaine.
God.
And so I'm really happy that you brought up Prefontaine.
I feel like this is already like jumping the gun and perverting the normal course of this. Is supposed to be the whole idea was that we'd organically mention something and then be like, oh, we should do that. But once you start thinking ahead to, ooh, I wonder what movie will, you're already distorting this entire process.
You're
and
right.
I feel like this
right.
game is breaking down. Colin's already probably got a list of like, well, I've got to mention these 3 movies to make sure they get out there.
No, the only one I
Trying
thought
to
of
keep the
was
system.
yeah. The only one I thought of was because Simon Pegg is in it, I want to get someone else to watch How to Lose Friends and Alienate People because I don't know anyone else who's ever watched the whole thing.
You're alienating us right now.
Yeah.
Well, we could watch
Can
Chariots
y'all
of
hear me?
Fire. Yeah, what?
I think you might be cutting in and out. Go ahead and talk.
No, I was saying, 'cause y'all hear me just before I was eating some corn.
Yeah, leave that in.
I was gonna wait till after the podcast to eat the salmon dinner I had prepared, but then I was like, honestly, they can't see me, so I'm just going to eat it. And so, like when y'all hear my audio and you hear me crunching, I don't want y'all to be thinking of whether or not I was eating. I want you to know for sure.
It's all
that I
good.
was.
I'll cut that shit out or make it as loud as possible.
Or let's just talk about it more. We could just make this a segment.
It's a thematic thing because you're eating salmon and we're talking about Lawrence Fishburne, so it's a little fish in the fish, you know?
Wow.
There. See, now that actually,
That-
as puns go, that's not that bad.
Yo, he said, "Fucking let the fish burn." Red or green pill, you live and you learn.
Yes.
Wow.
Actually, back to our original conversation about Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus is definitely his best role because I'm like, yeah, that was a Jay-Z bar. Is Jay-Z's talking about you for a very specific role? That's when you add your cultural height.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
like the
there's-
role he'll be most remembered for sure.
But there's also no way that King of New York is so big with rappers. There's no way that hasn't been mentioned a few times. Although I know Frank White, the Christopher Walken character, gets name dropped a lot more.
Yeah, that's it. No one is talking about Fishburne's character. They say King of New York or Frank White.
That's
Yep.
true. That's true.
I don't even remember what Fishburne's character's name was, and I just remember him being dope.
Oh, what is his name? It's not like a distinct name. I don't think.
I like this idea
Jimmy,
as Jay-Z.
It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy something.
Right. I like this idea of Jay-Z as like a cultural barometer, though. I think you got something there.
Oh, it's Jimmy.
That's not an original idea. That's been his appeal ever since.
It's Jimmy
like,
Jump.
99.
There's got to be some rapper must have mentioned Jimmy Jump somewhere on a deep cut.
So look,
I like I like the way Reek said it's not an original idea, almost like it's like already in written law. It's like, no, that's not an original idea. Like it was passed by Congress. Yeah.
Look, since like probably like 2000, 2001, whatever Jay-Z says is cool, that's what's cool. Like he was the first one to start wearing throwback jerseys. Then everybody was wearing baggy clothes too much, and he said, we're not doing that no more. We're going to wear button-up shirts. Him and Kanye at the same time were saying it, and so it was like black people stopped wearing jerseys, and then button-ups was the cool thing to do. Auto-tune was like the #1 thing in rap music or whatever, and he said, auto-tune is over, and the people started clowning T-Pain, and T-Pain was like Taylor Swift popular that summer. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yep.
So it's always that's how you know you've reached your pinnacle of cool. Like, if Jay-Z it says your name, especially if it's in positive light. Because if he says your name in a negative light, that's basically like the pinnacle that you ever reach, and then your career goes downhill from there.
So it's possible that Jay-Z shitting on you is the height of your career.
The height of your entire life.
Yeah.
There's like one person who survived. It's two people who survived negative words or negative interactions with Jay-Z. Nas and Barack Obama.
Well, there you go.
Those are only two. Kanye's barely survived the Jay-Z shaming.
So it's kind of like there's probably some people who their obituaries will just read, was born, Jay-Z shat on him, he died. Only significant thing that happened in his life.
Colin, we should start writing some letters to Jay-Z and see if he listens to podcasts about movies. Maybe he'll like our show. Shout us out on his next joint.
We can get up to like double-digit Patreon subscribers.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. We are in double digits.
I only do podcasts with his
That's right.
double-digit Patreon. So
This is a good time to mention for $1 a month, you can join our Patreon and get some sweet bonus content, exclusive content.
Only $1 a month? That's only $12 a year, Matt.
That's right. For just the price of a large Starbucks coffee drink, you can have
They call it venti.
a venti, yes.
I have one venti Starbucks coffee drink a year, so I'm going to stop doing that and instead subscribe to my own podcast.
That's brilliant. That sounds like you enjoy comedy and entertainment.
Much more than I enjoy coffee, yes.
Ditch that Starbucks and invent a new way to live with this podcast.
Colin's going pun crazy.
Yeah, that's how we should be marketing this, though, as an alternative to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Give up your Starbucks, people. You can have us.
Yeah. Oh, we should make the logo like with the lady, but it's my face.
But you just have huge breasts.
And your legs are like doing splits on either side of your head.
I buy it. I can see it. Let's talk about this movie. What do you guys think of the whole Rabbit's Foot plot?
I actually liked it.
Yeah, I kind of wish it was smaller. It looks kind of, it's like just a little bit bigger than a thermos, and it's kind of awkward. You know, it should be like more like a thermos or more like a barrel.
If it's more like a thermos, you're talking about a difference of like, you know what, a couple of inches. Like this is your problem with the Rabbit's Foot plot of the movie is that it's slightly bigger than a thermos. What is wrong with you?
Excuse me, Harris. It would be cubic inches. And yes.
Okay.
I didn't mind the size.
Yeah, you could handle the size.
I can handle the size.
So you can handle slightly bigger than a thermos. Let's get that on record. Matt can handle slightly bigger than a thermos. He doesn't mind that size.
I enjoyed it. I happily.
I've often suspected you're kind of a size queen. That's what they call a two-hander.
Yeah, girth. Anyway, yeah, Rabbit's Foot. I dug it. I dug the plot. I like that you never really learn what it is, but you kind of know what it is. It's some kind of.
I like how
virus or
brazen they were about just being like, yeah, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
This is the thing they need to get. I got a better question, more controversial question, because I've got the movie playing on mute in the background and it just got to this scene. When he breaks in and steals the Rabbit's Foot, how do we feel about not seeing anything that goes on inside the building?
I was with it because I was tired of seeing him doing impossible shit.
We've seen it in the last movie. It's the same scene. Him going into a bio hazard building and
shooting his way out.
Yeah.
And he even jumps out and parachutes out again too.
Mm-hmm.
The parachute thing actually I thought was unnecessary. Like the parachute kiting him all around. It's like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it's kind of cool.
And they kind of correct this in the next movie, but like I kind of knew that I could tell that when he jumped off the building and stuff that there was a lot of green screen and CGI going on, and like immediately you kind of
my Zoom is frozen. I don't know what's happening.
Can you still hear Matt talking?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Did I talk over you?
Yes.
It was frozen for like it was a good
okay.
little stretch. Is
All
Reek
right.
still here?
Rick is here.
Good.
Yeah, we keep on jumping. We keep on asking a question, and then as soon as he starts to answer, somebody jumps over him and talks over him.
What's the question?
How do you feel about not seeing the break-in, the inside of the break-in?
I fucked with it because I think at that point he was just doing. I just knew that any situation he was going to go in, he was going to win, do some impossible shit. And I didn't want to see that again. So I was just like, if we know that's what the end result is going to be, you might as well just cut it and show us where we actually can figure that he may not make it. Because it's like, this motherfucker is faster than cars. You get what I'm saying? Like, he's able to dodge all type of bullets. He can kick anybody's ass. He can slide down buildings. My biggest question for that scene was at this point, was he doing all his own stunts?
Oh yeah.
Or was that a stunt double?
He does
He
most
doesn't
of
do-
his stunts.
Yeah, he doesn't do all his own stunts, but he does a lot of them. Like if he's ever like walking on a high place or something, it's probably him.
Well, so is that a fact that he doesn't do them all? Because I kept hearing that he does all of his stunts because he wants you to know that it's him up there.
I think he does as many as he can, and like unless there's like insurance reasons why they're like, look, you can't do this, then unless he's like blatantly told you cannot do this, he won't. But yeah, I know he does a lot of them.
He's got credited stuntmen in all these movies, and if you watch the behind the scenes stuff, you will see that it's like usually like half of them are done with a stuntman, and not half of the stunts, but half of the takes. Like like they'll do all the wides with the stuntman, but then the exact same stunt in a tighter shot will be him.
Okay.
So it's kind of like anytime that you'd be able to tell that it's Tom Cruise, it's him, and anytime it's a
so they probably give him one shot at it.
No, I think they do multiple, because I know like in the last one, the motorcycle thing where he jumped off the motorcycle and they collide in midair, that was him for most of those takes because you could see his face. So like they just did take after take after take of him going up and slamming into the other guy in the air. But then for the wide shots of him from the back, I think they used the stunt double because it doesn't matter, and it's the exact same stunt.
Well, because then my thing is, why not do them all? Because it's like he's not licensed to do any of them. He's not like a stunt guy. So it's like, what stunts it would be so impossible that he couldn't do it? And like the way how crazy he is, like he was talking Italian in that movie. I was like, he probably learned how to speak Italian for that film, and he was like living in Rome and shit.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is like it might be to do with like scheduling, and maybe it is the insurance too.
But I mean, I had read like in the last movie that just came out, The Fallout, there's a scene where he jumps out of an airplane, and he really did that, and they jumped out of it 108 times or something like that, and he did every single one. That's insane.
Here's the question I had: when he puts on the Philip Seymour Hoffman suit, and then he's like crawling around in that little wooden thing as Philip Seymour Hoffman, was that a stunt man? Was that Philip Seymour Hoffman doing the stunt? Was that him in the suit doing the stunt?
I assumed it was Philip Seymour Hoffman because that's how they film all. Like they never do the people in actual masks. They, like it's like shitty.
Yeah.
When you see, so because it looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman's actual face, I assumed that it was actually Philip Seymour Hoffman doing that.
So you think he did his own stunts for this movie because Tom Cruise was like, "Hey."
It wasn't that much of a stunt, but yeah, he
it's
was
still
walking
a
across
stunt.
the
It's still technically a stunt.
I watched the behind the scenes featurette thing, and the end scene when Philip Seymour Hoffman and Tom Cruise are fighting each other, that was actually the two of them. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure they had stuntmen for like certain parts of it, but like for the most part, it was the two like main actors like fighting each other. Just pretty cool.
That's cool. I don't know if I said it earlier, but I also love Philip Seymour Hoffman acting like he's Tom Cruise, acting like Philip Seymour Hoffman, just for that little brief period. You get it?
Mm-hmm.
Like I like what he did with that part.
There's even a part like it's that bathroom scene when the bodyguard comes in or whatever, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman like shoots a look over to I forget the guy's name, the Irish guy who's hiding in the corner with the real Philip Seymour Hoffman. He gives him a look like it almost really feels like it's Tom Cruise giving the look like behind a Philip Seymour Hoffman mask. Does that make sense? Like he
Yeah.
does like such a good job of portraying Tom Cruise playing himself.
It's funny. I think that scene in the bathroom is after the cold open. Obviously, I think the scene in the bathroom is like the most memorable. Like when I think of this movie, I probably think of the cold open first. Then I think of that scene in the bathroom and him holding up his fingers for the guy to like he can't talk, but he's holding up his fingers for the bodyguard to stay out of the room. And then I think
he
of
keeps
like
coughing.
and then I think of the big shootout at the beginning and the helicopter chase, which are all pretty awesome. But I was just thinking, what when you think about this movie, what are the first scenes that pop in your head? Because this is one of those things this franchise has is in every movie, especially the first two, you have these iconic like set pieces that are very memorable. And I think for me, it's for some reason that bathroom scene is snuck into my top 3.
I'll tell you one scene that I think is really cool, and it's like underplayed is when they're kidnapping Owen Davien back on the bridge. They spray his armored truck with some orange goo that like it looks like, I don't even know what it looks like. It looks like whipped cream, like orange whipped cream, and then it immediately hardens, and then they just shatter the wall. Is that real? What is
It's
that?
like a real thing in real life, or did they make that up for the video?
I don't know, but
for the
it's
movie?
fucking awesome, and it's like such a great idea.
That shit was awesome.
Yeah.
I wish we
I
had
was
done
wondering
research on
a
this
lot of
because
the-
that has to be fake, but that would be awesome if it was real.
More goo.
I mean,
we need more goo.
I think that Chesapeake Bay Bridge sequence is pretty fucking cool though, too, and that's
Yeah.
why I don't understand why that doesn't come to my mind before the bathroom sequence.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys ever driven on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge?
No.
I don't think
that's the one in
so.
Virginia, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been on that shit.
it's really cool because it's just basically this road that just goes out into all you can see is water. It's like it's a bay, but it's so big that you can't see the other side. So it looks like you're just driving out into the ocean, and then you're just on this highway that drives through the ocean, and then at one point it just goes under the water. It just dives down and it becomes a tunnel, and it's like the road just disappears, and you just dip down under the water, and you're like, holy shit, what the fuck? It's pretty
That's
cool.
crazy. There are segments of
sounds
that
cool.
scene that remind me of the bridge scene from True Lies. But that's
which
Key
is
West.
is that in Key West?
Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of that. It's like such a different place, but yet it's still like a highway that's just moving over water.
Yeah.
It's funny too, because like if you ever drive through New Orleans, they've got a lot of highways that technically are the same thing. They're just built over water, except it's swamp, so there's trees all around you, so it doesn't feel the same.
Mhm.
But like literally, the exits just lead to boat ramps that just go into the water.
Yeah, I don't know. Memorable stuff that stood out. Before I started watching it, I haven't watched it in a really long time, and the stuff that I could remember before I started watching it was Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it, and he's cool in it, and then like some of the Italy stuff. Like I remember like the orange sports car, and that's where they switched the identity, and yeah. So that's what stands out. I think the whole Italy sequence really stands out to me. I just like all of it, like the way they pretend to be Italian and like, you know, like, oh, you're fucking up the car. Oh, I didn't fuck up the car. You fucked up the car. Oh, we're mad about traffic. Yeah, I'm mad about traffic. You know, like all that, like, and then as soon as it's over, they're like, hey, have a great day.
Yeah, and
Like,
everyone else is
see
like,
ya
bye.
later. Yeah. Yeah.
They're running up the wall, and then he does the little dive off the other, and you get like sort of the nod to the first Mission Impossible movie.
Yep.
Yeah, they have to have it in every one.
Which
He always
I
has to
probably
fall.
thought that was so cheesy and hated it the first time I saw this movie in the theaters, and now when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's kind of a nice little hat tip to the first movie.
Yeah.
Reek, you got any memorable moments that stick out in your mind from this?
Oh shit. Ving Rhames.
Yes.
Ving Rhames, man. Everything Ving Rhames makes me laugh. But like the scene where Tom jumps off of the roof and then he was like, I knew he was gonna make it. I knew it.
Oh, I love
that
that.
shit had me
I love
done.
that.
I was watching it and I went through this whole like internal wormhole of Ving Rhames in my head. I'm like, yo, this dude is like Yale, thespian. Like this motherfucker was in Pulp Fiction. He's in like all the Mission Impossible. Like he's so awesome. It's so specific. Like he's this big black dude with this super deep voice that's kind of funny, but also serious, but like also scary as hell. We don't give enough love for Ving Rhames, man. He's a national treasure.
Yeah, I was
He's
thinking
had a
about
good
it. Like,
run.
what else? I mean, besides this and Pulp Fiction, what?
Baby Boy. You ever seen Baby Boy?
Oh, I love Baby Boy.
No, I haven't seen.
I know you see Baby Boy Harris.
Yeah, Baby Boy's Baby Boy's like a Ving Rhames career highlight, I think.
That's the highlight. 'Cause that's like his main leading role. He also was in I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, and he was hilarious in that.
Yeah, I mean, every time we talk about doing the Mission Impossible movies, I always think I wish Ving Rhames was in more stuff. And I love how in this movie he goes from recurring character to like full sidekick.
Yeah,
You know.
he's been in he was in Con Air. You remember him in Con Air.
Oh, yes.
And he was in Striptease. He's got like a lot of minor roles in these movies. Like Jacob's Ladder and blah blah blah. He was in Dawn of the Dead. He's got a big role in that.
Oh yeah.
He was in Don King, Only in America. Did you ever see that? I think that's an HBO movie. He was really good in that. He plays Don King.
I could see it.
Yeah, he's had a weird career where it's like you feel like he should have more big things, but he's been good in so many like minor roles over the years that I do think we take him for granted a little bit. And now I strictly tune into the Mission Impossibles just to see how much weight he's gained since the last movie.
Ah, damn it. Why? Why you have to say something bad about him after all that?
I'm not saying anything bad about him. I think he looks good. He's carrying it well.
Okay. All right. Good.
Is there anything else obvious about this movie that we have yet to mention?
Well, I was on the Ving Rhames topic, I was gonna mention one of my weirdly favorite scenes is when they're putting the mask on Tom Cruise, because I think that's, first of all, this is the first time we see them make a mask, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
And they have all this technology that clearly they have never had to deal with in any of the previous movies.
Especially the last movie where they were throwing around masks like it was nothing.
Yeah, they're just making masks all the time. But I thought it was cool. They like the effects of putting the mask on were really good and like believable.
Yeah.
And also they're having this great conversation where Ving Rhames is trying to talk him out of getting married, and then at the end he's like, "I already got married." He's like, "Congratulations."
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I don't know what else aside from the fact that like I could talk about the things I didn't like about this movie.
Yeah, let's hear it. I mean, we know you've always got stuff.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I didn't like is this series is really good at shooting and editing action, and this movie also does that really well for the most part.
Yeah.
But the car chase after he steals the rabbit's foot is the most chaotic, incomprehensible bullshit I've ever seen. And it really lost me. It was like that sequence was already too long. It was like, okay, you jumped off the building and now we're doing a car chase. And just, it was the one part that I was like totally tuned out. And then honestly, I hate to say it, the ending is not great in this movie, you know? Like, I feel like
Well, we don't get no real explanation as to what the fuck was happening. Like, I was expecting with this type of film, Billy Crudup would have had to explain why he was dirty.
He does kind of, but it doesn't make any sense. He's like dirty because he thinks he can be a more effective world police guy if he's working with the terrorists to catch other terrorists. But
why try to kill Tom
everyone to
Cruise?
do that?
There's also a quick line where he states some sort of resentment towards Lawrence Fishburne because of affirmative action. Did you catch that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the
like,
affirmative
what did he say?
action poster boy, he says.
Yeah, he says he's a affirmative action poster boy. And this,
So
of course, is the white guy who, is accused of being only hired through nepotism.
Right.
Yeah, so
I missed that line because if I'd have heard that, I'd be like, "Oh, that motherfucker's a villain."
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
this is
what
something
he says when he's explaining it to Tom Cruise at the end when he's trying to explain to him why he.
Yeah, he
has
says that
gone-
line
gone
like when
bad.
you realize he is the villain. It's
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought
so,
they would have gave that to us beforehand. We would have known he was a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something like I don't like about the direction this movie went in is why does the IMF have an office building and bureaucrats now? Like before it was such a shadow organization that there was no centralized headquarters and people working desk jobs at all. There was just the Impossible Mission Force and missions, you know what I mean? And I think it kind of some of the stuff we're talking about that's confusing about it, like why exactly does Billy Crudup want to be a bad guy as this desk jockey IMF guy or whatever is confusing because it's like, so the IMF is a bureaucratic type of organization now,
and just the whole idea of a character like Lawrence Fishburne's character who is basically a bureaucrat who is
Right.
the cliched stick in the mud you guys need to follow the rules and file your reports or whatever, which is so much different than what we seen from Anthony Hopkins
With
in the
Hoffman.
last movie.
Or
and,
Hopkins, sorry.
And Anthony Hopkins in the last movie, and Kittredge, the guy who plays Kittredge in the first movie, who is kind of the bureaucrat, but it's way more like,
but Kittredge is
hands-off.
technically a liaison between CIA and the IMF. You know what I mean? Like, the IMF is a separate
he was like
thing.
the head of the IMF. I thought he was like the IMF handler for Ethan Hunt.
I think maybe technically he was a handler, but I think the implication is that he is an actual real bureaucrat, and the IMF is a separate thing that he is kind of a liaison officer to.
Either way, I don't think they actually say there isn't a bureaucracy behind the IMF in the first two movies, because we just don't see it. We just see the field agents doing their field agent things. That doesn't mean there aren't bureaucrats. They just don't factor into the plot. So I guess that's one thing that it could always exist, but they definitely don't feature it in the earlier movies. And after this one, it becomes kind of the main.
Yeah, they take it to a different level here, where it's like there's definitely a centralized headquarters with people at desks and stuff like that. Whereas in the first one, there was that guy, and maybe he was technically IMF, but it's still a different thing for them to be IMF agents versus like there is someone they do report to. You know what I mean?
They might have an
separateness.
office and desk in the first one.
They do.
just don't
There
see
are
them.
scenes in the first one where you see him like in sort of an office, like a high-tech looking office area.
Yeah, he's got like a satcom.
Yeah.
Big board thing.
I think you get what I'm saying without trying to pick apart.
Yes,
the
they're more
so
interested in the bureaucracy for the first time in this one, and then they kind of adopt that as the de facto. We're going to see bureaucrats fighting over shit in every Mission Impossible movie forever from now on.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it kind of is weird. I thought it was interesting that when Billy Crudup kind of explains why he didn't actually kill Ethan Hunt's wife, and he's like, they had to pretend to kill her because they had to make sure that he was telling the truth on the rabbit's foot, so they had to really put him through the ringer there. But then they don't kill her because still needs to extract information from Ethan Hunt, so he still needs her as leverage, which I thought was an interesting way of explaining something that doesn't really make sense on the surface. Like, I'm pretty sure they probably worked their way backwards from, okay, we want a fake killer, and then we want to still have him have to rescue her. How can we make this make sense plot-wise? And I thought it was kind of artful the way they did it, so it at least passes the smell test a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't buy, and I even thought him running through the streets of rural Shanghai, which I don't know if there is such a thing as rural Shanghai. It doesn't seem like there should be, but he's running through the streets of rural Shanghai, was cool. But then at the end, I don't like, he zaps himself in the head, and then she's got to become like a great gunfighter to save the day. And also, I hate movies that have a guy who is clearly, that have a bad guy whose his strength is clearly not that he's a great fighter and a great hand-to-hand combat guy. He's like, that's why he hires goons. And then somehow the end of the movie always ends up with him fighting the hero who is actually a great hand-to-hand combat guy. And it's like,
He's got the
kinda
best
takes
of
some
them.
of the,
Yeah.
like I know Ethan Hunt has a headache here, but it's very selective, and it doesn't seem to bother him when it comes time to kick Philip Seymour Hoffman's ass.
Right. Exactly.
I thought their fight was really cool though, except it's really weird how he only fights with his elbows for a little stretch of it. Like he's only using elbows.
Because he's got to hold his head. Because he's like, ooh, I got a headache. I have to hold my head.
Yeah, it's a little weird, but it's kind of cool. But the thing where the wife has to shoot a bunch of people, that seemed entirely unnecessary to me.
Yeah.
Like it's not necessary.
No. Like maybe
guess,
one. Maybe if Billy Crudup had shown up and she had shot him, not even knowing that he's a bad guy, just some dude in a suit shows up.
Oh, she's just like alarmed and just starts shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. Like I would have bought that, but not the guy who's a gunman, who's like a trained gunman who's trying to shoot her and she somehow outsmarts him and shoots him.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. And then the very end, when like him and first of all, the part I hate the most, and the thing I hate about this series is that the IMF stands for Impossible Mission Force, and I thought it was
they call it out here. They make a joke.
They
about
finally
it.
call it out, and it's like, no, why? And then the very last shot of like the two of them walking out of the office building, and like everyone, Ving Rhames and everyone are like cheering for them.
Yeah.
Like it's so
Yeah, that's
very
that's
cheesy.
silly. That's silly. Yeah, the part where the part where he's like, yeah, it's called Impossible Mission Force. They should have taken it farther. She should have like tried to commit him. Like, we're gonna go somewhere where everything's gonna be okay. We're gonna go somewhere where people can help you.
I think they should have just faded out with her continuing to make fun of the name, like just for the entire like just give her a bunch of jokes and let her riff there for a while, because it is that ridiculous that they probably should never mention it ever. But I'm glad if they're gonna mention it, they should at least point out how fucking stupid it is. I also thought the part where she's resurrecting him and like pumping his heart just takes way too long.
Yeah, it drags.
Although I did like the part where he bit through the tongue depressors when they zap him. That was a nice lo-fi special effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Did we lose Reed?
No, I'm here.
He's
Oh,
just
okay.
fucking napping over there.
I mean, y'all go on these tangents, and then I'll be eating.
I thought I heard something.
He's got priorities.
That's why I was like, y'all can't see me either, so it's like y'all just feel like I'm not in it. So if y'all saw me eating, it'd be a whole other thing.
All I see is your silhouette.
Oh, hold on. Oh yeah, I'm in a darker spot.
Oh, there we go.
All right, I'm done eating.
Finally. Welcome to the show.
I think are we ready to wrap up and do our ratings? Do we have anything else to talk about? We didn't really talk about J.J. Abrams. This is the first time we've had now our third director in 3 movies, but the previous 2 directors that we've had were Brian De Palma, who when he directed Mission Impossible, the first one, was a Hollywood legend who'd been in the business for 20-something years at least.
That was post Carlito's Way too.
Yep. And we had John Woo, who was already one of the biggest directors in Hong Kong and who had made his American transition. And, so we've had 2 really established filmmakers in the first 2 movies. And then we bring in J.J. Abrams, who this is his $150 million debut feature. Never directed a feature before this movie. His first feature was a $150 million blockbuster.
Now,
which is nice way to start.
He'd written a bunch of movies before. He'd directed television before. Mainly
started off as a
Felicity and Lost were his 2. Oh, and Alias.
And Alias. Alias is what got him this gig.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise saw Alias and was like, shit, this guy's good. But he was the third choice for this movie. They originally they had David Fincher signed up. David Fincher was directing the third Mission Impossible movie, which would have really kept in the tradition of really distinctive visual auteur directors, because he is just as much an auteur and just as visually preoccupied as De Palma and John Woo. And basically, what is the he had a quote on why he left this movie, because he left the movie over creative differences, and he said, "I think the problem with third movies is that the people who are financing them are experts on how they should be made and what they should be. At that point, when you own a franchise like that, you want to get rid of any extraneous opinions," which I don't think is him taking a shot. I don't think that's him bad-mouthing the producers. I think what he's saying is,
I've been through this.
There's only nobody else in the room.
yeah, that they know more than anybody about how to make a Mission Impossible movie at this point, so they're not going to listen to some director who comes in with new ideas, which is interesting because it is kind of like, that's sort of like what the Broccoli's did with the Bond movies. They had the same producers and everything like that, who are sort of they're the ones who run the show, and they bring in directors that can kind of play ball with them, and that's what Mission Impossible became.
But each director does bring something different to it. Like JJ's movie feels different than all of this. It's just like they have like this, I guess, Marvel way of doing it, where it's like it's not completely your voice, but it's distinct enough. Because I guess even with the Bond movies too, they kind of do that, where it's just like, because JJ's joint looks different than John Woo shit, and based off the trailers I've seen, and Brian De Palma shit.
Yeah, but this is the first one that feels like the later Mission Impossible movies, which feel more and more like each other. Like when you watch the first 2 movies, they feel like totally different movies. Like the first one does feel like a Brian De Palma movie more than a Mission Impossible movie, and the second one definitely feels way more like a John Woo movie than a Mission Impossible movie. This is the one where J.J. Abrams doesn't have as distinct a style as those guys. He is sort of just like
Well, he was still finding his style. Like, this is his first movie.
That's before the lens flares.
Yeah, there's not as much lens flare in this as we normally get.
Exactly.
There's still a lot though. Like so when I was watching it, I was thinking about, like I don't remember this being a J.J. Abrams movie from watching it before or whatever. But watching it now that J.J. Abrams is really high profile and I've seen stuff, like I felt like the movie was screaming at me that it was a J.J. Abrams movie the whole time.
So what are some of the distinct J.J. Abrams idiosyncrasies? Because other than lens flare, he's got some visual idiosyncrasies like lens flare and sometimes in color palette, I think. But other than that,
and also like pointing a light kind of directly at the camera besides just using it for a lens flare, like just like flashing lights pointed at the camera, even if it's not going to lens flare, and then the lens flare, but also like some of the camera choices of when they go like handheld versus when they move it on like a track or whatever. I was like,
but I don't know that
he
that's
likes
distinctively.
He likes a moving camera, and he uses a lot of canted angles a lot, and like just like kinetic, like just movement is like his whole thing. It's like how that's why it's so much money, because it's like every shot has to be on a crane or like moving, following Tom Cruise as he runs along for a mile,
Right. And the cold open, I immediately noticed it was handheld, and I was like, oh, I see that. I see why this scene's like that. That's like a him kind of choice to do that.
But that's not the most. I mean, that's not the most distinct thing. Only because like I could say like Danny Boyle, for instance, just the first person who pops in my head, has the exact same traits. And honestly, this could be a Danny Boyle movie in that sense of camera movement and stuff. Whereas if you ever saw a John Woo movie or a Brian De Palma movie, you're not mistaking that for anybody else,
Okay, but would Danny Boyle have the end be them walking away from all the other MIF agents going like, yeah, great job?
No, definitely not. That is...
Okay, but J.J. Abrams would, for sure.
This is kind of what I'm saying, is that like J.J. Abrams' thing is like populist happy ending. Like if he's got a distinctive character trait, it's almost like a Ron Howard-esque, move. And I don't say that as an insult, but like a push towards just doing something that's very popular and safe. Mm-hmm. Which is what these movies became. They take less and less risks every time, and now they're kind of, I don't want to. It sounds dismissive to say they're cookie cutter versions of themselves, but they've got a formula that they really lean on heavily, and I think this is where it starts. I think JJ shaped that formula a lot here, but I do think this is where the auteur ends. This is where like creative risk taking, and you mentioned the Marvel movies. That's the same reason Edgar Wright got fired from Ant-Man, because he wanted to make an Edgar Wright movie, and they want to make Marvel movies. So you're not going to see David Fincher direct a Mission Impossible or a James Bond or a Marvel movie, because they're not going to let him make a David Fincher movie, which is what he wants to do.
Taika make his own Thor movie.
That is the only exception I can think of in all three of these franchises, like once they got established.
I mean, I don't know. I think Ryan was able to do some stuff with Black Panther that was like, it wasn't necessarily his whole thing, but you could see a lot of his influence and voice that they couldn't have put in there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. You definitely get like getting a good director. They make a contribution, absolutely. And I think Black Panther is probably another one that's like more different than I think.
It's all the movies that don't have like a fan base already, that they're risky properties. Like Black Panther, Guardians of the Galaxy was a risky property. Right. No one go back like 7 years ago before that movie came out or whenever. No one knew what the fuck Guardians of the Galaxy was.
And Thor was dead and buried after the Dark World. They didn't have much hope for that.
Exactly.
So.
And same with Ant-Man. No one knows what Ant-Man is.
Why did they kick Edgar Wright off of Ant-Man?
I think he just, I don't know. He gave up.
Left.
I think he was on some bullshit. I'm not gonna lie to you, because they were to let Edgar Wright do his thing.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a certain amount of like you said. This isn't to say that I don't think Taika Waititi and Ryan Coogler or any of those guys aren't pushing the envelope and trying to do something that's true to themselves in these movies. But I think there's certain people who are willing to compromise and get away with that. And I think there's certain directors who aren't. And Fincher clearly wasn't.
The other director too, the Joe Carnahan came on.
Joe
right?
Carnahan was the second one they brought on, based on Narc, and I'm glad because I don't. I liked
Ant-Man?
I liked Narc.
On this movie.
On this movie, I like Narc. I haven't liked a single thing Joe Carnahan's done since then, so I'm glad he didn't direct that because I think that would have been a vastly inferior movie.
I haven't seen Narc in a long time, but I remember liking it when I finally watched it. I couldn't tell you one thing that happens in it though.
It was very indie and smart and like kind of I think he's capable of that. But then he did like Smoking Aces and these things that are just like bullet extravaganzas and kind of action, like stupid action movies.
He did another movie, like his first breakout movie. It's called like Blood, Guts, Bullets, and something. Octane. Yeah. I remember that being good too. But again, it was like his indie breakout movie. So.
He might be one of those guys who works better with heavy
less
restrictions.
Yeah,
exactly. Like when you say you can blow up anything and cast any actor, he's like, I'm going to cast all the actors and blow up everything.
Well, he's written some cool shit. Didn't he write The Gray? Did you ever see that movie? The Liam Neeson
Yeah, I
one?
did, and I think he might have actually directed The Gray, which would blow a hole in my theory that I haven't liked anything he's done.
Oh, if he directed it too,
I didn't love it, but that was pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's underrated. That movie, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And once again, it was kind of stripped down. You took away a lot of his toys, explosions and gunfights, and and it just became like actors in the woods with some CGI wolves.
Yep.
I kind of like Smoking Aces. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I think some of the subject matter, like the Tahoe and the magician guy. It's just there's a charm there for me, I guess.
When I said Smoking Aces, I was like, I'm surprised I'm not getting pushback from Colin on this one. This movie's so stupid. This movie is so stupid. It is so up Colin's alley of being like cheesy and over the top.
I've probably said it before, but I'm a big Alicia Keys fan. She doesn't do much wrong in my opinion.
I'm with you there. I'm on board.
Is this the second time? I feel like, did we talk about Alicia Keys and Smoking Aces last time I was on the show?
Did we?
Probably. We talk about her in that movie every episode.
I feel like you definitely, because I remember you distinctly saying that Alicia Keys could do no more wrong in my mind. I think my response was like Smoking Aces, brother.
Yeah.
Smoking fucking Aces.
Well, I think we should probably rate this thing.
Okay.
Huh?
We should probably rate this movie on a scale of 1 to 10 Timothy Dolphins. That's our rating system.
So our rating system, Reek, is we're on a Timothy Dolphin scale.
Okay. Random.
Yeah, it is random.
It's very random.
It's got a story behind it, but we've already explained it to our listeners too many times.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'll go first. I'll jump in.
It's almost as if there was a higher porpoise.
Wow.
It's not bad. I'll jump in here first. I like this movie. I think I said beforehand that this might be like secretly my favorite of all the Mission Impossibles. And very similar to how after rewatching the second one after so many years, I liked it more than I thought. After rewatching this one, I had far more complaints than I thought. The plot isn't bad. I think a lot of the sidekicks, they aren't bad, but they're not great. So we had like sort of this rotating cast of people that I'm kind of glad they didn't bring them back because these guys weren't as memorable as some of the people we get later. I feel like it doesn't. The fact that the bathroom scene still sticks out in my mind as one of the most memorable scenes is a sign that the set pieces aren't on the caliber of stuff that we've had in the other movies. There's the thing on the bridge, and there's some good moments, but not like we see in the first two and in some of the subsequent ones. And the ending is just such a disappointment. I have so many problems with the prolonged fight that I don't really buy, and her becoming a gunfighter, and then her having to resuscitate him for so long. And I would probably give this 7 Timothy Dolphins, which is what I gave Mission Impossible 2. Only Philip Seymour Hoffman comes in and absolutely crushes it, and like absolutely just saves this thing and adds an entire point to it. So I'm going to give this 8 Timothy Dolphins.
Solid.
So on these Timothy Dolphins, right? Are we talking about like on the scale of like all movies, or just in terms of like action films? You get what I'm saying?
You can also just you like pick a number.
Nah, I know, but I want to know like what does this compare? What is this 8 in comparison to like Godfather for you?
Well, I do this in most. I try to judge this on its own merits, so I'm not going to compare it to like my favorite like art house film or my favorite whatever. I'm comparing this mostly. I'm comparing this to the other Mission Impossible films, but I'm also factoring in like how I feel about this compared to like Bond films and Bourne films and similar genre stuff.
Yeah, a good way for you to do it is, action movies. I mean, obviously you can't compare this to like he said, like an art house film or whatever. It's a different beast altogether. But mission movies that are of this caliber.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I'll give this a 8 Timothy Dalton. Timothy Dalton too. I'll give it an 8.5.
Whoa.
8.5. Because I do think it's really good. It's definitely better than most action films. I think it still holds up, even though it came out probably close to 20 years ago. And Seymour Hoffman, man, he elevates the fuck out of this film.
Was this
So I'm gonna get it at an 8.5.
Reek, was this your first time seeing this movie? No, right? You'd seen it before?
It's my first Mission Impossible movie I ever seen.
Oh shit.
Wow.
Yeah, I grew up with 3 sisters, so it wasn't like if we was going. And I grew up with 3 sisters in the city, so it was like when it was time to go to the movies, we weren't. You was going to see one movie for like 3 or 4 months. So anytime there was a like an action film out, I always got outvoted by my sisters. We all had to go together and shit. And it was even worse at the house because they could outvote me at the TV and all that shit too. So there's like a plethora of like 90s and 80s action films I hadn't seen. Like I've never seen Die Hard.
Oh shit.
I saw Star Wars when I was like 23 years old.
I feel like we got to do
Yeah,
a
man.
podcast of just get Reek back and just watch Die Hard with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Bad Boys,
Yeah, man.
then Die Hard.
Yeah.
Then
Well, yeah. I mean, I've seen Bad Boys. Bad Boys. I think most black people of this era have seen Bad Boys.
yeah, but we talked about
But,
doing a Bad Boys series with you last time, remember?
We did. I'm down for the Bad Boys series. The Bad Boys for
Um,
Life just came out too.
Did you ever watch Family Matters?
Yeah, of course. Shut up.
You know that.
You
Carl,
said that
Carl
your
Wins-
reaction to that, Reek, was like they would take away your black card if you didn't.
Yeah, I was like, what kind of question is that?
You know that Carl.
You got 2
Carl
eyes?
Winslow from Family Matters. He got his break being the cop in Die Hard.
Oh, really?
There are 3 black characters in Die Hard, just so you know.
And Carl Winslow's one of them.
Yes. Oh no, actually
what-
4, because one of the FBI Johnsons is black too.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I feel like I've never seen Die Hard. I've never seen a Lethal Weapon franchise.
Damn.
Oh wow.
That's a good franchise for
something.
us to do, guys.
Yeah,
I
that's.
think I
definitely
may
on
have
my-
seen
that's
one of the
definitely on
Bourne
my radar.
movies.
Yeah, but by the time we watch Lethal Weapon, we might be too old for that shit.
Oh my god.
Well,
the
welcome.
puns don't
Well,
stop.
welcome to the Mission Impossible franchise, Reek. I hope this first movie was a good experience.
Oh, no.
Colin, off that sick pun that you just had, why don't you give us your rating?
7 Timothy Dolphins. It's really better than a 7, but it's just it gives you a bunch of stuff you like, but it doesn't give you enough of what you like. Like there's not enough Philip Seymour Hoffman stuff. There's not enough of all these like great side characters, and yeah, the ending it's weird. Like I like the idea of the IMF being, such a shadow organization that the ending of this one looks awkward, but I don't know. It's really good still. It's like it's probably better than a 7, but I'm going to give it a 7 because 7 is still much higher than 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, even 1, and of course 0.
And also it's a very low score for Colin just in general.
Yeah, wow. Well, I think my score is going to be pretty similar, if not exactly similar. And I think this movie, like, I remember really liking it when I first saw it. I saw it in the theater, and I think I've seen it a couple times since then. But seeing it this most recent time, yeah, I kind of agree with what Colin is saying, that like this movie, it's like it's stuffing too much in there. It does feel a bit reactionary to the last movie, like our guest Jacob pointed out last episode. They try to give Ethan Hunt like a family, or like emotional stakes with a wife, and like give him the motivation that he wants to like not be a spy anymore and he wants to have a regular life, which is cool, but I feel like it's not needed for this franchise. We don't want to see that. We want to see him keep going, and I think the next movie immediately erases the events of this movie.
I was going to say they basically have to tiptoe around the wife for the next 3 films.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't really earn that. They just said like, oh yeah, he has a wife and he wants to get out of it now. Like,
well, they earned
no
it by
reason
casting
for
Michelle
it.
Monaghan, who
They wanted Tandy Newton to come back, but she was unavailable or something. So then, yeah, there's a lot of side characters in this, almost too many because we don't get enough of them, exactly like you said, Colin. Maggie Q and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers like seem like they could be cool, but I feel like they don't really even have like their big moment in this movie. Something about this movie feels like forgettable, It's like it does have moments that you remember, and it does have like cool things going on, and there's nothing really bad. And I had mentioned before, like within the first 10 minutes of this movie, I was like, this is 10,000 times better than the previous movie. But for some reason, it doesn't like stick in your brain as much as you'd like it to. Philip Seymour Hoffman again is the highlight. But again, you don't see a lot of him. I could have used a few more scenes with him. And even his death at the end is kind of like uneventful, and it's kind of cool, I guess. But I don't know.
it seemed I agree. Like the concept of it is cool, and then the payoff at that point, Tom Cruise is already winning the fight. So getting killed by a truck is, I don't know. I agree. Just like the idea was great, the execution really just didn't do it for me.
Right.
It was forgettable.
Right.
I also think it was hurt by the fact that they immediately go into like, I have to teach the woman how to use the gun, and she's gonna start killing people now. Stuff that I already thought was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. I do like some of the characters they, brought into this movie. I like Lawrence Fishburne's character. I really wish they would have kept him around. Who else? That's pretty much it. I like Philip Seymour Hoffman. I even like the Billy Crudup character, but obviously he had to go. But yeah, I don't know. I give it a 7. 7 Timothy Dolphins.
All right. So we're probably in the 7.5 Timothy Dolphin range for this one on average. So that is definitely a license to watch, though.
Oh, yeah. You got to check this one out.
Yeah,
it's the one that sort of sets it on the trajectory of where it ultimately ends up.
Yeah. Cool. So guess what I'm going to do now?
I won't guess.
I am going to at the end of this taping, I'm going to turn all this stuff down. I'm going to get into bed, and I'm going to watch Hard Boiled, the greatest action movie ever. And that is because that is what we're going to be watching for our bonus podcast. So if you haven't subscribed to our bonus podcast yet, please do, because we are going to be doing a great podcast on Hard Boiled.
I missed a bunch of that because my Zoom froze, so I was just looking at Reek's shirt the whole time that says Brooklyn's Finest. Like that's.
I mean, I am that.
Yeah.
I am that.
Isn't that a Wesley Snipes
I didn't know y'all
movie?
could see my face. Huh?
What?
Isn't that a Wesley Snipes movie, Brooklyn's Finest?
Wesley Snipes was in that movie. That was around the time he was in the tax evasion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Funny story. That was like the first movie set I ever been on.
Oh, yeah?
They shot around the corner from my grandmother's house. So I came over, and I was on set for like 4 days just watching them shoot one chase sequence. They had like taken over like the whole community. They had people like housed in the church.
And
the whole nine.
did you see the movie come out when it came out?
I did watch it.
Any good?
It was okay. It wasn't like, it was just good. It was just solid. You get what I'm saying? I think it was supposed to be a lot better than what people thought it was going to be, because they had like a massive cast, and it was like Antoine Fuqua was directing it, but it's fine. You get what I'm saying? It's like it's right in the realm of Smoking Aces. Like there's like a whole plethora of like B- C+ like action films with like big stars in it and like somewhat talented directors. That's where it fits in. Where it's not terrible, but it's not the best film you've seen that year or probably like in a decade. You know?
Yo, funny story. I have an Antoine Fuqua story as well. I was on the set of a movie of his when I was a kid. I was an extra in a movie he did called Bait. with Jamie Foxx. Do you guys know that one?
I remember
Oh, I
Bait.
remember Bait.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx had them
Yeah.
fucked up dreads.
Yeah.
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 How many projects were you an extra in, Matt McGregor? That's what's going on every podcast. Is like, I was an extra.
Yeah, I've got a few. Actually, it's just that and Star Trek, and I feel like I have one or two more. I was on the set of a movie called Flawless with Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, I remember that one.
I
too.
got to I got to sit on the set, and they were filming like a drag queen scene. That's all I remember. I've actually never even seen the movie.
That's one of his like good, like very artsy roles that nobody knows or remembers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even
I
know if he
remember
could.
Flawless.
I don't even know if he could do that anymore because that was all playing a drag queen, which I don't know who's allowed to play drag queens now.
I mean, if you're an ally, you're an ally. As long as they surround you with real drag queens. I don't know. That's a tough question.
Yeah.
I don't got the answer.
I don't either.
I always loved Schenectady, New York.
Yeah, that's a
Philip
great
Seymour
one.
Hoffman did. That's one of his famous art house films. I feel like.
Yeah, so weird. The first time I watched that, I was actually disappointed because I was like, it was just too much. And then I watched it again, and I was like, oh, this is actually this is a really interesting movie, and they do some interesting. I mean, it's Charlie Kaufman, so he's gonna have interesting ideas, but that one is like so bizarre.
I think that's the thing with his movie is that he's making a movie that you have to talk about. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Because like
you gotta process it.
You gotta process it. Like I think the ones that did really well, were in Charlie Kaufman, John Malkovich in Adaptation, and those are weird, but they're palpable. Like I think like regular audience goers can watch it and be like, oh, I can fuck with this. You get what I'm saying? But Schenectady is like really out there. It's really out there.
There's like too many ideas to catch on the first watch.
Yeah. I mean, his house is burning.
Yeah. Yeah, the house is just on fire.
Yeah, he has a guy playing himself, watching himself.
Yep. And then the city that they build to represent the city that they build as a set for the real city becomes bigger than the actual city.
Yeah. It's like it's I'm like, I wish I knew what the fuck you were talking about. Because I think it's one of those things where it's like, especially when you look at Adaptation and fucking being John Malkovich, they're all movies about writing, right?
Yeah.
And like the process of him being neurotic as a writer. So I'm like, I feel like what film were you working on when you felt that you were creating it to make it personal and it just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger outside of your reach? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. They're all kind of like just metaphors for the creative process.
Metaphors and nightmares.
Yep.
There's definitely some shit he's seeing when his eyes was closed.
Yeah.
Reek, what have you been working on these days? What you got anything to plug, or like how can people find out what's going on with you?
I mean, in these trying times, I mean, a lot of stuff has been on pause, but I will say my improv group, we're gonna be doing a Zoom improv show this weekend.
Oh shit! How can people watch that?
Cornbread Kitchen on Instagram. We'll be posting all the information. We're also going to record it. So after we do it, if you missed the first Zoom, you can come check it out at Cornbread Kitchen on Instagram. We'll also, me and some of the comedy homies are going to be doing this thing called like Fake Late Night Show, where we're basically doing like a Zoom like news show at night, but it's going to be ratchet as fuck.
And that's going to be like ongoing, or it's just one?
Yeah.
Show? Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's going to be ongoing.
And that's at the same website that you just said before?
That's going to be on a whole... I'll be posting on my Instagram page.
And what's
my Instagram is @ReekSpeaks.
Nice.
All right. So check out Reek Speaks and keep up with all of his creative endeavors. One of our favorite guests here.
Yeah, thanks for coming out again. This is actually Reek's second time. The first time he was on one of our secret episodes that you can only hear on Patreon if you
behind the
subscribe.
paywall, baby.
Yeah.
Get these brothers their money.
$1 a month, guys.
Yeah, these motherfuckers your dollar. You ain't using it.
All that money you're saving on gas during this pandemic. Come on, guys. $1.
Give us your $1.
All right, guys. I think that's it. We'll be back with Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Yeah.
Peace.
All right.
Thanks, Reek.
Peace out. Thanks.
Thanks, Reek. Bye.